everyone! Today in this lecture, I am going to explain line by line the famous sonnet, 129 by William Shakespeare. Before I start it, if you are new to my channel, please support me with your subscription. And you do like and watch my videos but don't subscribe to, so please subscribe it. Let me tell you first the background of this sonnet. Actually, in this sonnet, Shakespeare talks about the destructive power of uncontrolled lust, intense physical desire that is acted on without love or reason. The poem describes how lust feels irresistible before it is fulfilled. But once it is satisfied, it quickly turns into shame, disgust, and regret. Shakespeare compares it to a trap, something that looks tempting at first, but causes pain once it's taken. Lust is described as violent, cruel, and irrational, something that controls a person and leads them to do things they later hate themselves for. Even though people know how harmful it is, they still chase after it, mistaking it for happiness or heaven, only to find hell after it's done. So, the sonnet warns us about the emotional damage that lust can cause and how it deceives people into making choices they regret. Let's start it. The expense of spirit and a waste of shame. This line means that spending or using your spirit, which here refers to desire, passion, or sexual energy, leads only to shame and regret. Shakespeare is saying that when a person gives in to lust, it drains their emotional and spiritual energy, and the result is nothing but a feeling of wastefulness and guilt. The word expense means cost or loss. Spirit means the inner self or desire, and waste of shame means a situation where you feel deeply ashamed afterwards. So, in simple words, when you accept defeat to sexual desire, it might feel good for a moment, but afterwards you feel it was a shameful waste of yourself. Is lust in action? Until action lust. Here, Shakespeare explains that lust becomes truly shameful when it is acted upon, when it turns into physical action. Lust in action refers to actually giving in to desire, having sex. Until action lust means even before the act happens. Lust is already in the mind, building up. He's saying that lust is already strong before anything happens. And once it leads to action, it results in regret. In simple terms, lust is powerful before anything even happens. And when it finally happens, it becomes a shameful thing. Is perjured, murderous, bloody, full of blame. Shakespeare now lists strong, negative words to describe what lust becomes once it is acted on. He says that lust is perjured, which means it is full of lies. People might make false promises, just to satisfy their desires, saying things they don't mean. It is murderous because lust can destroy relationships, reputations, and even lead to real violence or deep emotional harm. When he says bloody, he is emphasizing how dangerous and damaging it can be, almost as if it leaves a trail of pain and destruction behind. Lastly, full of blame means that after the act of lust is over, there is often regret, shame, and guilt, either from the person who gave in to the lust or from others who judge them for it. Altogether, Shakespeare is showing that while lust may seem sweet and exciting before the act, it turns into something ugly, harmful, and deeply shameful once it's over. Savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust. He continues to describe how destructive and dangerous lust becomes once it has been acted upon. He calls it savage, meaning wild, uncontrolled, and animal-like, not guided by reason or kindness. Then he says it is extreme, meaning it goes too far, beyond normal limits, leading people to act in reckless, harmful ways just to satisfy their desires. The word rude here means not just impolite, but harsh, rough, and lacking in gentleness or care. Lust, once fulfilled, is also called cruel, meaning it causes pain to others and even to the person who gave into it. It shows no mercy. Finally, not to trust means that lust is unreliable. It might promise pleasure or love, but it often leads to betrayal, regret, or disappointment. Shakespeare is showing that although lust may appear attractive or exciting, once it is indulged, It becomes destructive and cannot be trusted to bring anything good. Enjoyed no sooner but despised straight. This line means that as soon as lust is satisfied, the moment it is enjoyed or acted upon, it is immediately followed by regret or even disgust. The word enjoyed here means the moment of physical pleasure or the act of giving in to lust. No sooner suggests that the pleasure is very brief. It barely happens before the next emotion takes over. Despised straight means that almost instantly, the same thing that was so strongly desired is now hated or looked down upon. So Shakespeare is highlighting how quickly feelings change when they are based on lust. What once felt irresistible and exciting becomes shameful or disappointing as soon as the desire is fulfilled. This line shows the fleeting, unreliable nature of lust. It doesn't lead to lasting happiness, but instead often leaves people feeling empty, guilty or full of self-hatred. Past reason hunted, and no sooner had. Here, Shakespeare is describing how lust drives people to act irrationally. The phrase past reason hunted means that lust is chased or pursued beyond the limits of logic or reason. In other words, when someone is overcome with lust, they don't think clearly. They're willing to do anything to satisfy their desire, even things that are foolish, reckless, or wrong. It shows how powerful and blinding lust can be. The next part, and no sooner had, means that as soon as the person has what they were chasing, as soon as the desire is fulfilled, something changes. It sets up the idea that once the lustful act is complete, the passion disappears just as quickly. So in simple terms, this line says, people chase lust with no sense or control, but the moment they get what they wanted, everything changes and the pleasure fades and regret begins. This is Shakespeare continuing to show how dangerous and disappointing lust can be. It makes people act without thinking, and then quickly leaves them feeling empty. Past reason hated as a swallowed bait. This continues the previous idea. Once the act of lust is done, it's not just disliked, it's hated past reason, meaning with extreme regret and disgust. Shakespeare compares it to a swallowed bait, something tempting that you regret taking, like a fish biting a hook. In simple terms, after you give in to lust, you hate it just as strongly as you wanted it before, like swallowing something that looked good but turns out to be a trap. So, in simple terms, Shakespeare is saying that after people give in to lust, they end up hating it even more than they first desired it, just like a fish would regret biting into a hook disguised as food. It's a powerful warning about how something that seems irresistible at first can bring deep regret and self-loathing after it's over, on purpose laid to make the taker mad. He continues comparing lust to a dangerous trap, much like bait set out to catch a fish. He says that lust is on purpose laid, meaning it is deliberately set or designed, just like bait is carefully placed by a fisherman or a trapper. It is not innocent or harmless. It's meant to lure someone in. And who is it meant for? The taker. The person who gives in to lust and takes the bait. Shakespeare then says that this bait is laid to make the taker mad. Here, mad means insane or overwhelmed with regret, guilt, shame, and emotional torment. Once someone gives in to lust, they don't find peace or happiness. Instead, they are mentally disturbed by the consequences. They may feel angry at themselves, disappointed, or ashamed. Shakespeare is suggesting that lust is a trick. It looks sweet and tempting, but it is actually meant to harm and emotionally destroy the person who falls for it, mad in pursuit and in possession. So, this line shows that lust causes madness both when you're chasing it. The phrase in pursuit means to search or to chase and after you've had it. You lose your senses both while you're wanting it and after you've gotten it. So, in simple words, lust makes people crazy when they're trying to get it, and still crazy even after they've had it. Simply, you can say when you try to chase it, it makes you mad, and when you achieve it, it again makes you mad. And then says, had, having, and in quest to have extreme. In this line, Shakespeare is describing how intense and overwhelming lust is. not just at one point in time, but during all stages of it. He uses 3 key words: had, having, and in quest to have. These words represent the different moments or stages of desire. Had refers to the time after someone has already fulfilled their desire, they've gotten what they wanted. Having means the present moment, while they are in the act of fulfilling that desire. And in quest to have refers to the time before, when they are chasing or longing for what they want, the pursuit itself. Shakespeare says that in all of these stages, before, during, and after a lust is extreme, that means it is intense, overpowering, and often unreasonable. It stirs up powerful emotions like craving, obsession, excitement, frustration, or even regret. Even when the person is only thinking about their desire before they have it, when they are acting on it, or after they've had it, they are still filled with extreme feelings. There is no peace or balance. A bliss in proof and proved a very woe. The word bliss means great happiness or pleasure, and proof here means the act of experiencing or testing something. In this case, giving in to lust. So when he says a bliss in proof, he means that while you are experiencing lust or giving into it, it feels like pure happiness or joy. It seems delightful in the moment, almost like a reward. But then he immediately says, and proved a very woe. The word proved means once it has been experienced or completed, once the lust has been satisfied. A very woe means it brings true sorrow or misery. So Shakespeare is saying that even though lust feels like bliss while it's happening, once it's over, it turns into sadness, guilt, or regret. In simple words, he's showing how deceptive lust can be. It promises happiness, but once it's fulfilled, it often leaves behind pain or emotional suffering. What felt so good turns out to be something that hurts you, a painful truth that only appears after it's too late. Before a joy proposed, behind a dream. In this line, Shakespeare continues describing the deceptive nature of lust. The phrase before a joy proposed means that before you actually act on lust, it seems like it will bring joy or happiness. The word proposed here means something that is suggested or imagined. So when you're thinking about giving into lust, it feels exciting, tempting, and full of joyful possibilities, like something wonderful is about to happen. But then he says behind a dream. The word behind means after the act is over, once the lust has been fulfilled. And a dream means something that isn't real, something that fades away or disappears quickly. So after it's all done, the joy you thought you'd get turns out to be empty, like a dream that vanishes when you wake up. There's nothing real or lasting about it. In simple words, you can say, he is saying that lust promises joy at first, but after it's over, that joy feels fake, like it never really existed, just an illusion. It leaves you feeling empty, like chasing something that disappears the moment you reach it. All this the world well knows, yet none knows well. Now he is pointing out a powerful truth about human nature. He begins by saying, all this the world well knows, which means that everyone already understands everything he has. Just described about lust, how it seems exciting before you give into it, but quickly turns bitter and full of regret afterward. People know that lust can lead to pain, guilt, and disappointment. It's common knowledge. It's not a secret. But then he adds, yet none knows well, which introduces a contrast. Even though people know all of this in theory, they don't truly understand it in practice. The phrase means that even though the whole world knows lust is dangerous and disappointing, people still keep falling into it. They don't know well in the sense of acting wisely based on that knowledge. So Shakespeare is pointing out a human weakness. We recognize the harm of lust, but we still let ourselves be tempted by it. Over and over again, like as if we've learned nothing. It shows the difference between knowing something in your head and truly living by that knowledge. To shun the heaven that leads men to this hell. In this powerful final line, Shakespeare brings together all his thoughts on the destructive nature of lust. The word shun means to avoid or stay away from something. So when he says to shun the heaven, he means people should avoid the thing that feels like heaven. That is, the pleasure and excitement of lust. He calls lust heaven here because at first, it feels wonderful and irresistible. It's tempting and gives a sense of joy or thrill. But then he says this so-called heaven leads men to this hell. That means it tricks people. It appears beautiful and desirable at first, but it quickly drags them into a place of suffering, regret, guilt, and emotional pain. The hell here is the torment people feel after giving in to lust, shame, anger, and disappointment. So to put it in simple and clear words, he is saying that even though lust may seem like a kind of heaven at the beginning, so attractive and pleasurable, it ultimately leads people into misery and regret, like falling from heaven straight into hell. And the tragedy is, even though we know this, we often still don't avoid it. This final line wraps up the sonnet's message. Lust promises joy but delivers pain, and wisdom lies in recognizing and avoiding that dangerous illusion. I hope you have enjoyed it, but please don't forget to like and subscribe the channel for more videos. Thank you!